Wagwan y'all, it's Dimz back for the attack, but you already know that. Today, let's talk about fight sticks. But more specifically, my current fight stick that I mainly use to play mostly all my games. First things first, let's have a brief talk about my small history with fight sticks or even controllers in general. Since I was young, I've always loved controllers, especially different types of controllers. And yes, I was the proverbial little brother who always got the knockoff controller to use. Because, in my time, I had my share of Hories, Mad Cats, and even rock candies. Aside from some of them being inferior products, it really piqued my interest in really how anything can be a controller and how different they all can look. Even today, I have some nostalgia from some objectively inferior controllers or old school pads. Because, when they released the Duke controller, I had to get it. I'm sorry. So, with a love of different types of controllers and a love of fighting games, it's kind of obvious that I stumbled onto fight sticks. In the past, I've tried using a traditional arcade stick before, however, it always felt like unintuitive to me, and it still kinda does today. I've always just used the D-pads on my pads, or just used keyboards whenever I played fighting games on the computer. So I figured, hey, if there's ever a fight stick that comes out that only has buttons to move instead of the joystick, I would buy it. Lo and behold, the company Hitbox Arcade had answered my pleas, and easily became one of my favorite companies to buy arcade sticks from. I currently own all three of their major products. The Smashbox is actually my very first fight stick that I purchased, and I still love it today. Then after that, I decided to buy their Hitbox for, just fighting games that are kind of outside the Nintendo Switch sphere. However, I can't really get used to this layout, even though I know it's very popular. I just couldn't really get used to it myself. And lastly, the Hitbox Cross-Up, which is the main topic of this video. But as you can see, my Hitbox Cross-Up looks a bit different than the standard issue one. Well, that's because I modded it. But first, let me tell you why I actually bought it. I love my Smashbox and everything I can do with it, but mostly I love the ability to have any button on this stick remapped, and having multiple profiles to switch from on the fly. The downside of the Smashbox is it basically only works on Nintendo Switch, and I guess a PC platform as well, as long as I hook it up through the GameCube adapter. But also, it's kind of big and bulky. The Hitbox is slim, and it basically works on all platforms. However, it doesn't have remappable buttons or multiple profiles. And yes, I do know that it's possible to modify your fight sticks to do these things, but at the time when I was buying these, I wasn't as adept at modding controllers as I am today. So, when the cross-up was announced, and it can basically work on all consoles and was remappable with multiple profiles, I was sold. I knew I had to have it. But there was one glaring issue: the joystick. As mentioned before, using a traditional joystick just doesn't click for me. I also didn't necessarily like how the extra buttons were formatted, and my modding skills weren't ready for this level of case modding. So I went to the Hitbox Discord, talked about my dilemma, and inside of their modding channel, and that's where I met Luberry. Luberry has their own little business. Basically, they do fight stick commissions. They can modify fight sticks, create cases, do LEDs, custom wiring, etc. They do a really great job, and I decided to commission them. I told them my idea, and they said they would be able to do it. So, I bought the Hitbox Cross-Up, shipped it to them, and when they were finished, here we are. I call this my Zamazenta stick, because it has art of my second favorite legendary Pokemon, Zamazenta. And if you want to know, Zekrom is my favorite legendary Pokemon. I chose to do Zamazenta because the color palette was more vibrant. This art was actually done by the lovely Avis on Twitter. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And the GFX and the indicators were all done by Matt GFX, also on Twitter. They all did an amazing job, and I love having all their signatures on the front of my stick. So now let's talk about my layout. It's a slanted WASD layout for the direction buttons, a Vuelix layout for my action buttons, and the extra little buttons in this area, I made it akin to the Smashbox's extra buttons, since that's what I'm really used to. I press these buttons by using my thumbs. I just make sure they get in on the action as well. Also, side note, if you ever want to modify one of your current sticks into a WASD layout without a whole case mod, definitely check out Omni Arcade's products. Using their products, you'll easily be able to change out your joystick with either like the olden version 2 or one of their T-Spin products. It's actually really simple. My main profile actually just uses the top two buttons over here as L3 or R3, or I guess left stick button or right stick button. A lot of games are starting to actually make them remappable choices. Specifically, let's say Guilty Gear Strive, because my L3 is actually my instant dash and my R3 is my burst button. There's actually a bunch of stuff I love about my stick, and like despite it looking big, it's actually almost weightless. Like, it's surprisingly light, and I think it's the lightest stick that I own so far. It weighs as much as my clipboard actually. It's made out of aluminum and it's very sturdy. The whole backside has a foam pad, or one big foam pad, to stop it from slipping and sliding everywhere on your lap or on any surface that you play on. My stick also has LEDs, but I also asked for an on and off switch for them because I don't actually want my LEDs to always be on, especially in dark rooms. These things can get really bright. But my number one favorite thing about this stick is the sunken power cord port, I guess. I actually dislike how in the normal Hitbox the power cord port usually just juts out. So having it in this flush design made me so happy. And if I had to bring up anything I didn't like about my stick, it would be the fact that I wish for it to be a Vuelix layout instead of a Noir layout. Vuelix layouts are great when you only want to play with these 6 buttons or these 6 buttons at one time, but since I usually use this controller to play mostly all my games like platformers, it tends to ask me to use a combination of these 4 buttons frequently. Now with the games with button remapping, this isn't a problem because I could just adjust accordingly. However, when a platform or a game doesn't have button remapping, then that's where I really suffer. Either way, I absolutely love my modded cross-up that Luberry has done. They've done a phenomenal job, and I'm so glad I discovered them at the time I did. If you would like to actually contact them about a commission, you should try contacting them on Twitter or on their Discord to find out if they're open for commissions currently. I hope you did enjoy the video. Please subscribe and like if you did like my video, and if you want to see more of my content, because I'm making a lot more, as well as making a lot more. If you want, you can visit my Ko-fi. If you really like my video and just what you saw today, you can be like, hey man, that's a cool video. Here's $5. Above all else though, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all later.